The disease of our day is compulsivity. What compulsivity is about are the things we eat, the things we drink, what we breathe, how we sleep, our sexuality, our work styles, the way we eat, the way we buy, the way we have our entertainment. Those are the simple things of life. And every one of those can be a compulsivity. Now, the World Health Organization defines compulsivity as a pathological relationship to a mood-altering event, experience, or thing that has life-damaging consequences. So for me, compulsivity is the same thing as addiction, really. If we talk about the compulsive family, we're talking about the addictive family. There's some argument in the field of whether you can be compulsive without having life-damaging consequences. When it has life-damaging consequences, it's an addiction, but it's still a pathological relationship if it's a compulsivity. See, I don't even want to be compulsive about running. I don't even believe with Bill Glasser that there's good positive addictions. I don't want to be addicted, because what addiction is about is being driven. It's about necessity. It's about not having a choice. And to me, that's the loss of freedom. That's the loss of the very thing that is the core of being human, creativity and freedom. We have a crisis in the way we're doing things, and we need to take a look at it. We need to get out of our illusions and our denials that I don't know anybody alive. I have not met a person yet who isn't compulsive in some way in this culture, who isn't after the big buck or trying to go for success, or isn't addicted to excitement, or isn't addicted to being on the cutting edge. We have to break through our denials. I have to try to engage that little child in you that's sitting in there, been lost for years, hiding behind masks and persona and scripts and acts and sex roles and how to be a woman and how to be a man, when deep down you didn't even know what your feelings were. You don't even know what they are. So what I'm calling you to in this series is to yourself. That's the crisis, the lost self in us.
Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be our final video on the Bradshaw section of our analysis of how energy law is affecting every aspect of your life. And it's going to be kind of a summary of everything we've talked to up until this point. So we're going to watch the last clip, and then I'm going to sit down and break down exactly what's happening inside of your mind through the decision-making process that you're making as you slide deeper and deeper into compulsivity and addiction. Let's play the clip.
Now, we think of addictions as like heroin addicts or alcoholism, mood altering. But you see, an addiction is basically a distraction. It's a distraction. It's not just a mood altering to have a euphoric feeling. It may be mood altering to have no feeling at all. Or it may be mood altering not to have a painful feeling, okay? For example, people are addicted to people. We're going to talk about that. Kinds of relationships. You can be addicted to your kids. Animals. You got 5 cats and 4 dogs and 2 birds, and they cost you a fortune, and pretty soon your whole life has become unmanageable over the animals. Activity, sleeping. People become addicted to sleeping. People are addicted to drinking. They're addicted to daydreaming. They're addicted to hobbies. How many marriages get dysfunctional because old Joe's over here playing softball 6 nights a week? And he's shooting pool and drinking beer with the boys, and he's never home. Or mama has to go bowling 7 nights a week, or whatever that creates a stressor on the family system. Exercise. People get addicted to exercise, to sports, watching TV, Monday Night Football. Addicted to excitement. Addicted to ritual, religious ritual, magic ritual, anything far out. See, anything that'll take you away from your feelings. Addicted to gambling, addicted to being sick. Things, addicted to junk. Addicted to junk. There's 2 rooms in my house. I can't even get in. Addicted to buying. Just buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. Excitement of buying. addicted to cars, addicted to jewelry, addicted to material possessions, addicted to money, addicted to possessions, clothes, substances, alcohol, nicotine, drugs, food, caffeine. And then addicted to emotions. You can be addicted to rage and anger. You can be addicted to sadness. You can be addicted to joy. You walk around and you're so happy all the time, no matter what. You don't feel any of your other feelings. You're just happy all the time. Addicted to work. Now, I want to say something about work addiction. I touched on it briefly, but work addiction is a serious addiction. You see, shame is the feeling that I'm worth less, so I got to be worth more, worth more, worth more. I've got to make more to be worth more, and if I'm worth more and I can show a financial statement, see, because shame's about exposure. Shame, the feeling of shame is about fearing being exposed. So if I can present on the outside this image of myself as highly successful, big cars, money, financial statement, then nobody can see that underneath that is my shame base. So that man will act out. He's usually lost himself, very depressed, or it could be a woman. And somebody in this system, maybe one of the kids, will be depressed all the time, be carrying his shame, will be carrying his shame. And see, that's awful. Sexual addiction in our country, as we're beginning to understand it, is so common. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? What feeling is denied very early on? Anger is the most commonly, that's the feeling for sure you can't have. Don't you raise your voice to me. Don't you talk to your mama that way. But what about sexual feelings? So those feelings go underground. They get repressed, and you get alienated from them. They're split off. When you look in the mirror, there's no sexuality, not in the family. Little boys who are neglected emotionally, they don't get a lot of attention, or who are emotionally abused, what happens is they go very deep within themselves in isolation. One drug of choice for sex addicts is pornography. Another drug of choice may be compulsive masturbation. Another drug of choice may be sadomasochism. Another drug of choice may be cruising. Another drug of choice may be acting out in some other way. But every one of them are a relationship with a mood-altering event. You see how the addictive quality is there? Can you see that this range of addiction is enormous? Why I would talk about the diseases of today is compulsivity. There's almost nothing I can think of that I have treated and worked with in counseling that doesn't have an addictive quality. And see, shame is that belief that you're worthless. And shame gets interiorized early on as a person is shamed either through abuse, through neglect, through abandonment, through one of those processes, feels inferior, doesn't feel like they have a right to their own reality, must adapt in one of these roles we talked about. Then that shame base gets built up. Then as they watch a parent who is shame-based, what do they have as a model? And then here's the corker. The shame becomes internalized and automatic. So you don't even have to have an external shaming event. You just become shamed. And then you get into shame binds. You feel sadness, you feel ashamed. You feel anger, you feel ashamed. You feel sexual, you feel ashamed. You feel like eating, you feel ashamed. How many of you got shamed at the dinner table? Oh, that's an arena of shame. Sex is an arena of shame. Food. See, the very instinctual drives that we have are arenas of shame. The repetition compulsion, the urge to repeat. This repetition compulsion is rooted in childhood. See, alcoholism isn't about alcohol, although you got to get the alcohol out. Cocaine addiction isn't about cocaine, although you can't use the cocaine if you want to get well. Food addiction is not about food, although you can't get well if you don't quit eating food. Our feelings are our reality. Every compulsivity is a way of being out of control, a way of either feeling a feeling or distracting ourselves from feelings. Compulsivity is a result of the loss of ourselves. People tell me, well, I got beaten as a kid and I survived. It's like saying I survived nuclear war. Is there any greater sorrow to never have known who you are, to be an act all your life, even if it's being the president of the world? If it's an act, you're not yourself. So what a tragedy. And that's the crisis in the family today, is this kind of tragedy. It's a crisis of the truth of ourselves. It's a crisis of discipline. It's a crisis of not knowing who we are.
Like Bradshaw says, when we normally think of addiction, we think of like an alcoholic or a drug addict, someone that is very obviously in a lot of distress or spiraling out of control. But we've really created a society where the compulsivity is factoring into so many different aspects of our life right now that it's just manifesting in so many new ways that we have never really experienced before because of the affluence that we have in the world right now. This crazy model that you've seen throughout this presentation we call Ohm's Wheels of Life. And Ohm's Wheels of Life are an actual breakdown of the law of energy called Ohm's Law of Resistance. And we've created it in this new form so that we can actually show you what's going on inside of yourself and your experience, because everything is energy law all the time. You just have to figure out where you are in the flow of that energy law and how the different variables are affecting how you're actually making decisions. We created this because we found it very useful for ourselves, because we've had to figure all of this out on our own, because there is no course on this anywhere other than here, because this is just what 20 years of experience have built of studying this phenomenon. So in the potential constant reality up at the very, very top of the model, you see that if potential is constant and resistance decreases, current increases. But if potential is constant and resistance increases, current decreases. This is the mental aspect of your life. You have established some sort of potential on a base level because you are alive. It's not going up or down. You have a base level of potential that you have just by virtue of being alive. So when resistance increases and current decreases, that's you saying no. If mental resistance increases and you say no, then current or whatever activity you're doing is going to decrease as a result. And the opposite is true, which is if you say yes, if mental resistance decreases, current increases, you move towards that thing because you have now said yes. The reason just say no when it comes to addiction doesn't work is because a compulsive person's whole problem is that they don't have the ability to say no. They have lost the ability, the mental ability to increase the resistance to the point where they can actually stop themselves from going through the habit that they've created. And all addiction is a habit that has been created to distract you from a greater resistance that you should be engaging but are avoiding. Every addiction is doing the exact same thing. It doesn't matter if it's alcohol, drugs, shopping, pornography. Every addiction you have is something you are choosing, you are saying yes to, and driving your energy toward in avoidance of a harder something that you should actually be doing. Now, everybody's day starts at the very, very bottom of this cycle. This is the resistance constant reality. Every day you wake up, your place in the phases resets back to the resistance constant reality. The instant you wake up, there are things that you need to do. There are obstacles or resistances that you must overcome every day just by virtue of being alive. And for some people, it's very difficult things. And for other people, it's very easy. You might be a retired person with lots of money, but when you wake up in the morning, you still have the resistance of getting up and brushing your teeth and making your breakfast and doing all these different things. Every day starts in the resistance constant reality. So in the resistance constant reality, if resistance is constant and current decreases, potential difference must decrease. So if you get up in the morning and you're not doing anything, then you do not have the potential to overcome whatever those obstacles are. And the upper aspect of that same part of the equation is that if resistance is constant and current increases, potential difference must increase. So what that means is that when you get up in the morning, you know you have to go to work and you're going to have to overcome all of the resistances of your job. And as a result, you get the potential of the money that you've got for fulfilling the task. Now, this is where addiction comes into the equation. And the third aspect of the equation is the current constant reality. It is where you're being active. And in the current constant reality, if current is constant and resistance decreases, potential decreases. But if current is constant and resistance increases, potential must increase. So you start your day in the resistance constant reality, and you go through your 8 hours at work, and you do all of the things that you need to do. And the first thing that you do when you get home is you see all of the other things that you should probably do too. So you're in a constant state of action, and you have two choices. You're either going to engage the greater resistance and start cleaning up your house, let's say, or you're going to grab a glass of wine and take a break because you've earned it. You've overcome the obstacles of the day. You've got enough money that you can actually just relax, so you relax. Everyone is doing this on different levels through different distractive mediums. Sometimes it's a glass of wine, maybe it's a joint, maybe it's video games, maybe it's pornography. There's always some other activity that is a higher resistance that you should be engaging in, that you are avoiding through this distractionary device that you've chosen. So if current is constant and resistance decreases, potential difference must decrease. So you end up just spending your whole day avoiding the problems. And then you do that enough times, and that becomes the habit. And then once the habit is formed, it just becomes automatic. All of the things Bradshaw said play out perfectly in these wheels of life as we've created. When the habit gets so ingrained that you finish your day's work and you do something easy. And sometimes you have to, it's okay, but there's always other things that you should probably be doing. But when it gets so ingrained in you that at the end of the day you do something easy, then your brain in the potential constant reality starts losing the ability to say no. At the very, very highest level, if potential is constant and resistance decreases, current increases. That's you saying yes. You start saying yes to low resistance activities until you stop even asking the question and you immediately start going into the low resistance activity that is whatever distraction you've chosen for yourself. This is the fundamental energy phenomenon that's going on through every addictive process. It is always through the benefit of the harder road that you grow. This is why, as Bradshaw says, the only way out is through. The through is the resistance that you must overcome through action on the higher level of the current constant reality. That resistance is the thing you must go through in order to grow. If current is constant and resistance increases, potential difference must increase. That potential difference, that expansion of potential difference, is your growth. It is the new you will eventually become when you stop subconsciously choosing the easier path and engage the harder path. This is why overcoming addiction is so hard. And the only way you can do that is through increasing your awareness of what's happening to you on this energy level. This is how it worked for me, because I've had my own struggles with addiction. How I did it was by becoming more aware of the pattern that your life has become. Your life has fallen into this energy law pattern, and you can overcome it, but the only way to overcome it is through increased awareness of the habit itself. There are two aspects of you. We call it the me versus the I. The me is the part of you that desires, but the I is the part of you that can observe yourself desiring. Every day when you come home and you grab that glass of wine, the me is going, oh, me, 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 me. It's time for me. It's me time. But the I needs to become activated in you. And the only way to do that is through the mindful choice of actually observing yourself desiring. Until you learn how to step back from the automatic habit of grabbing the bottle of wine and pouring the glass and actually start observing yourself pouring the glass and observing yourself receiving the reward. Instead of automatically doing it, you will start to slowly start seeing yourself doing it. And then you can start redirecting that energy to the harder road. Bradshaw is completely correct. The only way to overcome addiction is to become aware of the resistance that must be overcome that has triggered the need for distraction in the first place, and that is usually something that was created through a traumatic childhood event. If you're intrigued by what you've heard here today, be sure to like and subscribe this channel. We've got a lot more videos already made on this subject and many more coming. We've got over 100 videos that we've pre-edited that we are going to analyze and show you how this expanded understanding of Ohm's law of resistance that we call Ohm's law of life is actually influencing every aspect of your experience. It's a very fascinating new field that we are hoping more people will be interested in, because until you understand these fundamental natural laws and see them actually functioning all around you, it's virtually impossible to break yourself out of the mindset and the habits that we've inadvertently created just by virtue of existing.